Folks, we're visiting today with Whitney Price. She is the founder of an organization called UnPuzzled Parents Connect. Whitney, thanks for being on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about you, learning about your story, and learning about UnPuzzled Parents Connect.
Positively West Virginia. Positively West Virginia.
Positively West Virginia is powered by BreezeLine high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, and Humble Influence. With the help of these sponsors, we're able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one from today's episode.
Whitney, let's start right at the top. For our listeners who may not know about you or have not heard of UnPuzzled Parents Connect, tell our audience, give us an overview of what you do.
Sure. UnPuzzled Parents Connect is a nonprofit out of Wood County, and we actually serve the entire state of West Virginia through both resources and our trainings. And our mission is to cater and connect families that have children with autism or intellectual disabilities to both resources, education, trainings, classroom kits for inclusion, and sensory-friendly activities, and most importantly, emotional support.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you've got your message down very well, and I appreciate that. Whitney, how did this whole thing get started for you?
Oh gosh, UnPuzzled was kind of built on a foundation from two parents who were struggling a lot. My husband and I knew nothing about autism when our little boy Connor was diagnosed at the age of 2. And he was actually diagnosed at a level 3. If people are familiar with the levels, there's level 1, level 2, and level 3. And Connor was diagnosed when he was in birth to 3 in that program.
Yeah, sure.
And it was right at the peak of the pandemic. So autism was very new to us. You know, we knew the stereotypical Rain Man. We knew America's Got Talent, but we didn't know that there would be different levels of support needed for our son. And that was kind of the start of our journey. And UnPuzzled Parents Connect was really born when Connor received his spot on West Virginia's waiver program, which gave him Medicaid due to his disability. That alleviated a lot of the financial stress that we were going through. So when we were given that spot at the time, we were going to an ABA therapy out of Pleasants County. And we knew a lot of the parents there personally, and we wanted to share that information with them to help relieve some of their financial burdens. So we started as a support group actually out of Pleasants County. There was just 10 of us around a little round table. And we were just sharing resources, information, and just supporting each other emotionally.
You were there for each other.
Yes. It was an isolating time. They don't really talk about the emotions that parents go through upon receiving that diagnosis. And we went through everything from grief, self-isolation, blame, wondering what was going to happen next, wondering what life was going to be like. And by having that support group in place, we were able to not only connect with other parents, but just discover this new world that we were in together and walking along the same type of journey as parents who understood. And that meant a lot to us.
There's power in community. And what sounds like it was you were able to not only find a community, but to build a community now to support each other. But it's way more than that right now, right?
Yes.
So first of all, thank you for sharing that. What's your background, Whitney? How did you think of the idea to start a nonprofit? Tell us a little bit about your background. Where are you from and all that? What your career path maybe?
My husband and I have lived in Parkersburg for the past 10 years now.
Okay.
We were both in the auto finance business, in the auto world. So I was actually a finance manager at a Ford dealership. My husband is a general manager of Astorg Auto of Parkersburg.
Okay.
So we've been in the auto business, or I had been for the past 17 years.
Oh my goodness.
And I was in sales before that. So I'd done everything from sell cars to manage to do finance directing. And this was a brand new world for us. So
you didn't have a background in special ed.
Nothing. I didn't have a background in anything with the disability community. No. I didn't have a background in autism. You know, my husband and I had zero background and knowledge when it came to a nonprofit. And it really grew based upon the support group that we had. So initially, we were just a private group on Facebook. And we did that so that the parents that we had at the time would be able to share resources.
Sure.
But we also gained a lot of attention from the surrounding areas because there wasn't anything like that in Pleasants County. You know, it's population size of a peanut. So there was nothing for autism there. But when we started sharing these resources, we also gained a lot of community response. So we had educators, we had therapists that were willing to host different trainings for us. And each program that we have now kind of organically grew within the support group that we were leading at the time. And we became kind of outgrowing the support group. And that's when I felt the pull to say, okay, is this time for us to try and pursue a nonprofit, knowing nothing about it, knowing zero of how to start it, but with a lot of help from our board of directors. We officially became a nonprofit at the end of 2024. And that's how we began.
What's the inspiration then? If you didn't have that background, I mean, I'm just so curious because it's a big undertaking to start.
Huge.
Yeah, it's
a
huge,
whole new
right?
life.
Yeah.
I mean, his diagnosis changed the whole trajectory of our lives. It's not something that you clock in and out 9 to 5. You know, our son dictates our daily schedule, whether it's therapies, whether it's if we sleep at night, whether it's trying to find different specialists throughout the state or beyond.
Yeah.
And when I say people don't understand how much your life changes after that diagnosis, everything changed for us.
Yeah.
So when we started getting all of that support from the community, we wanted to do more, but we also knew that there was a lot of kids that needed support. There was a lot of families that didn't have anybody else to talk to. And at least by gaining that nonprofit status, we were able to pursue different grants, different community support, different support from foundations. And we needed that financial support to be able to do the programs that we have now.
Yeah. How old is your son now?
He's almost 8.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. All right, so that's a wonderful background. Like I said, it's a tremendous opportunity, but also a massive responsibility to start a nonprofit, especially something that you're not really trained in. What's been the biggest challenge that you've faced so far in starting this a couple of years ago?
I don't know what's not been a challenge. You have your own business, of course, a nonprofit. To be able to have programs, you have to budget. And that finance background from the dealership didn't help me at all. It helped me as far as being great with people, and I was self-motivated and driven in different ways. Sure. Same with my husband, but the motivation was our families. The motivation was our son.
Yeah.
And also trying to gain different perspectives from people. So trying to gain new community members, trying to gain new sponsorships, and I guess really selling the mission of the nonprofit was an important thing to learn for us that none of us were really experienced in.
Yeah. What's the thing that you're most excited about for UnPuzzled Parents Connect now?
Just how much we have grown over the last almost 2 years. You know, obviously autism is not only talked about statewide, but now at a national level. And one of the things that I think they don't focus on is the mental health and well-being of the families. You know, last year we heard that autism was this epidemic that was growing, but never once did they say anything about the parents. They didn't talk about the lack of funding. They didn't mention West Virginia, and we're among the lowest in the nation for funding and resources. So what's challenging but also exciting is not only are we discovering new providers, but we're putting programs in place that we know firsthand are needed. We're not just a typical nonprofit. We're for the families, but also led by the families. So we have a parent advisory board that's given us not only support, but ideas for different programs that we need as parents. But that's how we've organically grown these different programs. So I think that is something that's kind of made us a little bit successful, whereas maybe other nonprofits wouldn't be as successful if they didn't have this type of life and full-time life that we're living.
Yeah, great insight. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
Your prescriptions are designed to keep you healthy. active, full of life. At Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're making vital medicine more affordable. Because when your prescriptions don't cost an arm and a leg, you can use those limbs for something more meaningful. Because life. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, West Virginia.
Stay connected with an unbeatable deal from BreezeLine. Voted best in Mountaineer Country for their reliable, high-speed fiber internet for a low cost, BreezeLine is the best gig in town. You know, here at Interaction Media, we rely on high-speed internet every single day to ensure we can deliver the best content possible for our clients and when we publish Positively West Virginia each week. That's why we use BreezeLine. It's affordable, fast, and they're great people as well. Learn more about BreezeLine's internet, TV, and mobile options at breezeline.com. Folks, we're back. We're visiting with Whitney Price. She's the founder of a nonprofit organization in Wood County, Parkersburg area, UnPuzzled Parents Connect, and really serving the autism community as a support for families and these children. Whitney, what is the long-term vision that you have for UnPuzzled Parents Connect long-term?
Long term, we lead with our vision, which is a world of acceptance for our children to thrive in. And that's a heck of a goal when you think about it. So how do we impact the entire world? So we start with our impact program, where we have kind of thought of it in a way to impact more than just one event or one day. So we have now what's called Classroom Kits for Inclusion, where we've impacted 4,000 students. They receive a book about a child with autism, and then it also gives a different perspective for the teachers, or kind of a guide to go through and prompt questions to the students. And this opens up that conversation about differences and kindness. And we know that kindness is led through the classrooms. And then we've also started a program of training the officers out of Ohio. So the officers weren't actually mandated to have that training. And we were able to bring that to Marietta, Ohio. So we lead with that vision of impact, knowing that there's so many different areas in the community that need impacted in different ways, whether it's medical facilities, educators, or anywhere that might not understand autism. We're trying to do those trainings for them. Yeah, for people who may not understand autism or be exposed to somebody with that that disability condition, what's the thing that's most maybe unknown to what do people? I'm trying to find my words. Misconception?
Yeah. What's the thing that's the biggest misconception for that?
I think if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. And
everybody's different.
Yes, it's a spectrum. And it's not linear. You're not a little autistic and you're not a lot autistic. Everyone has different support needs. For my son, he has a lot of support needs. So he's not able to communicate like you and I are right now. So speech and communication are difficult. Social and emotional aspects are difficult for him. You might have a child that is non-speaking. Maybe they need an AAC device to communicate. Whereas you might also have people that are low support. However, emotional piece might not be there. So autism is a spectrum, but it's difficult because not everybody is aware of all of the different types of support that could be needed. So that's where we really want to bring that education and that inclusivity piece to our organization. Yeah. You and I just met, so you don't know my history, but I have a son, 36. He'll be 36 here soon, and he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy as a young little boy. He was a preemie, 1 pound, 10 ounce, 24.5 week gestation baby, and he's just a true miracle. And he goes to work at Pace Enterprises here in Morgantown, which is a developmental rehab facility for people with disabilities. And
as a layperson, I had to learn a lot about this, kind of like you did, about having a child with a disability. And it's been a journey, like I said, almost 36 years now. And so I can relate somewhat to what you're saying. And one of the things that has been very apparent to me as a coach for our Miracle League baseball team here in Morgantown, the West Virginia Miracle League, is you see these children, and they're God's creation, just like we are.
Yep. And
they have different ways of communicating and different talents and abilities. And I think it's important that we, when we're talking with the people with disability community, that we talk about them as to like their abilities, because they do have abilities. They're just different than ours, and maybe what the norm is or what we expect as normal, quote unquote, right? Yeah. But the other thing that I've learned, because I have a lot of children that I've dealt with over the years and coached in taking a child who has tactile issues where they wouldn't even hold a baseball bat, now can hit an underhand pitch. Over the years, I've been working with these kids, teaching them, America's pastime, baseball, and a simple thing like that, and the joy that they get, when they make connection with that ball and the bat, it's pretty profound, And what's cool about what I'm saying there is that the things that you're talking about are very, very true. And understanding like the support and the resources, and just dispelling maybe the myths or some of the underlying negative stereotypes that we have for people with disabilities here in West Virginia, across the country, really. But I think we are making progress, and I think what you're doing is really wonderful. So thank you for that. And I guess the question coming out of that is, how do you feel that the work that you're doing is impacting here in West Virginia, Wood County, and the whole state of West Virginia? What kind of impact do you feel like you're having?
Well, first, thank you for what you're doing.
No.
I don't want to overshadow that. We have a Miracle League in Parkersburg as well.
Are you serious?
Yes.
We should schedule a game. We'll take you on. I'll challenge you.
I'll be in the fields or in the stands cheering for you guys. But,
that's awesome.
It's amazing. What I hope to do is, when we talk about the world of acceptance for our kids, it starts with the awareness, so that's the education piece.
Yeah.
But none of this will be possible without action. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think April needs when people talk about autism awareness is autism in action. What are we doing for the community? Yeah. How are we making that vision come true? Mm-hmm. And that is what I hope to bring to West Virginia with our nonprofit, is showing, whether it's other nonprofits or businesses, that this doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
We can change a child's life and a family's life just by one little small thing, whether it's a sensory sensitive time, maybe it's training educators in a more positive light, maybe it's bringing more trainings to the schools. And there's so many different areas of advocacy. And we also want to break the stigma of that word. Yeah. Some people are very afraid when it comes to advocacy. They think of people at the Capitol. They think of rallies. Yeah. There's so many different types, from patient advocacy to, self-advocacy. We want to train on all of those areas so that parents are given that positive voice.
That's so true. Number one, what you just said, and it's I don't want to necessarily just fly by that real quick, because as a parent, you are your child's biggest advocate.
Yes.
And I've seen that throughout, whether it's, playing sports or in school and going through an IEP or talking to a doctor. If you're not advocating for your child, most of the time they cannot, especially when you're dealing with autism and some of these other disabilities, physical or emotional or whatever. Cognitive. You have, as a parent, you have to be the child's advocate, 100%. You got to be in there fighting like tooth and nail for your child.
And that's scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
That's a heck of a work. No one trains you on that.
Especially if you don't know what to do, right? How are you supposed to advocate? Well, I think you have to educate and have a little bit of self-reliance to say, I need to figure this out. And then again, like you said, you didn't ask for this. You weren't, nobody, prays for a child with disability,
Right.
But the point is that you're I don't want to say it this way, but you play the hand you're dealt, right?
Yes.
So it happens. Okay, let's go. Let's roll up our sleeves and figure this out. And I think that's a mindset almost, right? In terms of having to navigate and advocate. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
It does. Advocacy is not, there's no handbook for any of this. There's no handbook for overcoming insurance rejections. That's another training that we do.
Yeah,
If it wasn't for Connor's first insurance rejection, which landed us $10,000 out of pocket,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what I know now. And that was year one of the diagnosis. So we were already self-isolating. We were already going through so many different mixed emotions. And then on top of that, having that financial burden.
Oh my goodness.
And we didn't know, he was going to ABA therapy full time. So over 30 hours a week as my husband and I were working our full-time jobs. And then maybe having to pay this out of pocket, $120 an hour. All we knew is we had this little boy who was 3 years old, who wasn't speaking, who we knew needed full-time therapies. What are you going to do? You're going to write the check and hope and pray you can, sell your house or maybe move. I mean, there's so many different things that went through our mind. We didn't know that you could appeal it. We didn't know that there was an appeal process that you could get, those claims overturned and approved again.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. Unless you're taught or you go through something traumatic like that, how would you know?
Yeah.
And that's what we want to bring to our nonprofit. We want to be able to coach parents in a positive direction, whether it's with insurance, whether it's with IEPs, advocacy for the child, you name it. We want to be, kind of a jack of all trades that they can come to for resources, information, and most importantly, building a community. So if I don't have the answers, I know somebody on our parent board does.
Yeah.
We have parents that have children like yourself that they've graduated, they've already gone to college. And then we also have parents that have a child that's newly diagnosed. So they're going through all of these emotions and different feelings. So we want to be able to not only serve the child when they're newly diagnosed, but throughout their life.
What a wonderful mission. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
In a world obsessed with leadership, what if the real key to success is followership? We hear it all the time. Be a leader, take charge. But what if the most impactful people aren't the ones leading from the front? In Humble Influence, I explore how humility, collaboration, and shared purpose empower followers to create meaningful change in business, organizations, and relationships. Discover the strength of true followership with Humble Influence.
They say you can't take the lottery with you. But now, you can play anywhere, anytime with iPlay, the West Virginia Lottery's official app. Safe, simple, and always West Virginia proud. iPlay, the fun, secure way to play, wherever life takes you.
Folks, we're back. We're visiting with Whitney Price. She is the founder of UnPuzzled Parents Connect. She's based out of Wood County, right in the Parkersburg area. And this whole thing started back in 2024 and really stems, and I want to lift up his name, Connor, your son. He's 8, and he was kind of the inspiration for getting this whole nonprofit started. Whitney, as I'm sitting here thinking, does technology play a part in some of the work that you're doing these days? I mean, we have all these different, artificial intelligence, AI tools out there. Is there anything out there that you're using to help people get the answers to their questions answers to their questions faster or sooner or anything like that? Are you doing anything in that realm? Is technology helping, or even dealing with the autism spectrum? I mean, are there tools out there that you're employing?
Well, you mentioned AI. I think AI can help in so many different areas. Not only can it help us find resources for someone maybe out of Jackson County or Wirt County or an area that I'm not as familiar with, but when we are searching for different studies, AI is a great tool to use. Also for different speakers and different engagements that we want to have. Of course, I think if you're not using AI, then you better get on board for it quick.
For sure, yeah.
I think for sure it's definitely a tool that can help.
That's wonderful. What about people that may be listening to this saying, hey, I have a relative on the autism spectrum, but I've never heard of UnPuzzled Parents Connect. What's the best way for them to get plugged in?
They can connect with us directly on our Facebook page, UnPuzzled Parents Connect.
Yeah.
They can also find us on our website, unpuzzledparentsconnect.com. They could send an email and whatever they need. If they'd like to connect with us personally, if they need resources, if they'd like to connect through our on our website through our virtual series. We do virtual counseling and therapies. Almost all of our trainings are done in a hybrid way, both in person and virtually. So we know that there's people throughout the state that resources are not going to be in their back door.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're serving them too.
Yeah, that's good. With regard to the resources, you mentioned training, hybrid training, online training, right? What other ways are you using this nonprofit to really connect these people? You mentioned the support group, but it's way more than a support group at this point.
Yes.
That's how it started. But is that still a function of this, helping parents just really to understand what's going on? And what about kin parents? Like if it's not a parent, maybe it's a grandmother or an aunt or an uncle or something of that nature.
So we still have our support groups as our biggest program within the nonprofit. We've actually traveled to 18 different counties trying to put different communities together because we know that emotional support and connection is everything. My husband just started a men's group, so they meet monthly as well.
That's cool.
Oftentimes dads, brothers, uncles, grandfathers are overlooked. So no matter how your label is as a caregiver, you're welcome to connect with us. Same with educators, providers, therapists. We have a large group of people that are throughout the state that are part of our organization in some way.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you mentioned a men's group, I remember years ago, there was a governor's, I can't remember, it may have been Governor Bob Wise. Don't quote me on that, but there was a governor's summit for people with disabilities, and it was held at Canaan Valley. And I remember going to that one time and sitting in a men's group. It was just a bunch of guys, and it was just all dads, and we were all like, it was all different seasons of having a child. Okay, so some were very seasoned. Me as a new dad, I was like, I don't even know what's going on. But it was really interesting, and just thinking about some of the truths that were spoken that day. I remember very vividly, and some of the relationships that I formed with other dads who were going through some things and had already walked in the steps that I was about to walk into. And that was very comforting and empowering also, to know that somebody also went through that and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I think that's the same for my husband.
Yeah.
To have that judgment-free space.
Yes.
And that personal
exactly
connection is everything. And that goes back to our emotional support. You have to focus. But I'm sure for dads, and I know for him, it was difficult to have that conversation, to have the acceptance upon that diagnosis, and then our life rapidly changing. And I think back to it, and I think that would have supported him more than anything if we could have started that sooner. But you don't know what you don't know at the time. But the beauty in it now is how many different dads that he has, brothers, grandfathers that come. They bowl, they do axe throwing, they do wing night, just all these different activities that guys would want to do anyways, but they now have somebody to talk to in that way.
Yeah, and it's I guess I don't want to stereotype dads, but a lot of times we don't want to let our hair down or be vulnerable. That's a word that I have a hard time even saying, let alone being. But when you're in community with other people that have gone through that or have walked in those shoes, it makes it a little bit easier and gives a sense of encouragement, I think, as you're going through something like that. Whitney, if somebody's out there thinking, wow, Whitney has this child, Connor, he's 8. She started a nonprofit. She's doing all these amazing things. You're on a mission. I could tell it. And the passion is evident in your voice about UnPuzzled Parents Connect. What would you tell somebody that may be thinking about starting a nonprofit? What kind of advice would you give them?
Oh gosh, passion isn't always enough. You need more than passion. You need a heck of a support group around you, not in the way that we had for our nonprofit, but I mean, you need people that can guide you in a business sense, accounting. I would say build a very strong business-oriented team.
Yeah.
I come with a lot of ideas. I'm excited. I love hosting events. But my board is able to say, hey, we've got to make sure that the budgeting is correct before we add another program or before we start. Everything is free in our nonprofit for our families. So all of the events that we do, from Discovery World at the museum, sensory movie night, sensory dances, anything that we host, it is free for our families. That costs money. You have to be able to properly budget that. Same with the grants. You had better have some coaching and grant writing if you're wanting to get funding for, $5,000 to $20,000.
Yeah.
And there's just so much that goes into it. So build a strong team around you that has a good business mind.
As the founder, are you doing a lot of that work yourself? I mean, the grant writing and organization. I mean, it's basically you plus a whole team of volunteers around you.
Yes. We don't have any paid people right now. I mean, we hope to, by the end of the year, have our first employee, but right now we are just driven, a lot of passion and a lot of community support. So that's something that you can't get enough of, is just extra volunteers, helping hands. The community of people around people with special needs is kind of tight knit. There's pockets throughout the state. There's organizations like I mentioned, Pace Enterprises, Stepping Stones here in Morgantown are very active in North Central West Virginia. How do you get the word out to the families that UnPuzzled Parents Connect exists, number one, and how they can, be part of this? How do you get the word out there? I think the best way is to grow organically. So whether that is through just word of mouth, maybe that's through social media. We don't spend money on advertising or anything of that nature, at least not right now. We don't have that type of capacity yet, but everybody is welcome through our virtual trainings. And like I said, it's all free. So if you have somebody in Morgantown, Charleston, and we just hosted a advocacy 101 training with Disability Rights of West Virginia. That's who you're likely going to call if you're wanting a well-trained advocate in the state. But we were able to get that, as part of our advocacy training series so that parents could get familiar. And we had families from all over the state that attended. And of course it was virtual, so that makes it easy for them too. Yeah.
Whitney, you're a wonderful leader. You're leading this nonprofit. You worked, for years in the automotive industry here in West Virginia. What do you think makes a successful business leader today?
That's a great question. I think I'm still learning that. Passion, like I said, is not always enough. We have a lot of drive, but I think you have to give people grace. That's something that I wish I would have had from the very beginning, was a lot of grace. We're still learning. We're still learning the nonprofit world. It's a completely different ball game. But also, you lead with a different type of drive. I've always been driven by competitive drive and numbers and wanting to be, one of the top salespeople. But this is completely different. We lead and we're driven by the people that we've helped, the people that we're serving, the comments that we receive of, I love this organization, or they've helped me so much. And I think that's more powerful than anything. When you're driven by the opportunity to help someone and you're kind of changing their life in the most positive way. Maybe it's leading them to a program on Medicaid that's enabling them to have that financial burden off of them that my husband and I carried. Or maybe it's just emotional support. Maybe it's just connecting with them over coffee. But that is the drive now. And I think if you can lead with, a positive attitude, then I think that's going to be the most important thing. And obviously a good support surrounding you.
Yeah, that's great insight, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. It's very helpful, and I got a lot from your answer as well. As it relates to autism, especially, what's one piece of advice you would give to people that may not fully understand, like what you're going through or what your child Connor is going through? What would be something you would like them to know about autism?
Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's support needs are different, but there is beauty in every single individual. We just have to find it.
Yeah.
And it might not be there at the very beginning. My son was completely different, not just verbally, but when I think about the skill sets that he's gained over the last almost 8 years now, it's night and day compared to the child that was diagnosed at the age of 2. Yeah. We didn't know what life was going to be like. And yesterday we had our first sensory sensitive movie, and he sat through the whole thing.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Now, is that a special type of movie, or what? Tell us a little bit about that, because that's interesting.
We actually partnered with Discovery World, which is the museum out of Parkersburg, and they just put up a new theater at the museum, and we had already partnered with them to do a Discovery Day for UnPuzzled, which is a sensory sensitive time. The lights are on, not completely lit up, but they're somewhat dimmed. And then also our sound is lower. Same in the movie theater room. But the beauty in it was kids could get up, they could walk around, they had their own snacks, their own drinks that they brought from home. So it wasn't just popcorn and theater style snacking. So it was, anything that their comfort foods were there.
So cool. Yeah.
And then they were just able to be themselves. So my son got right up against the stage and was dancing with some of the other kids. And, of course, the parents are able to talk, interact, and just be. There's not a space of, sit down, be quiet. Our kids can't typically do that. Some of them can, but my son can't.
Love it. Yeah.
So he was able to get up. He enjoyed the movie Cars, and just his friends were there, and they just had a great time.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That's powerful, really. When you think about that, that's awesome. So, well, Whitney, we've covered a lot here in this interview, and I just want to say I'm really impressed with the work that you're doing, especially not having a background in special education or early intervention or autism training or anything like that.
Right.
And just to do what you're doing, you and your husband, your family, and of course Connor being the inspiration for this at 8 years old. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot. Is there anything else you think our listeners should know about your story or that of UnPuzzled Parents Connect?
My story's not that unique. Yeah. So if you did enjoy the story, or if it impacted you in some way, just consider how many other families out there are going through the same thing.
That's great. Yeah.
I think we've been fortunate enough to share our story, but it's not unique. And that's the unfortunate part. West Virginia is among the lowest in the nation for resources and funding for the disability community. Yeah. So if we impacted you in any way, please consider how you can positively impact somebody else's life and make a change. Be more aware, be more accepting, be less judgmental, and help us lead with that world of acceptance.
That's awesome. Yep, that's great. Whitney, I just want to say it's been an honor to have you on the show. I've enjoyed our conversation.
It's been an honor to be here.
I think it's
followed for a long time.
I think it's very important that we get the word out there, that especially with these children that are on the autism spectrum, any child with a disability, it's extremely important that we advocate for them. That, not only as parents, but as a community, because we definitely need to see the beauty in these kids and these young people, for sure, because it's there. We just have to look at it a little differently and just be accepting of them.
Yep.
Give them the opportunity to stand up and dance during a movie. I think that's awesome. I think it's a beautiful thing that you're doing. I just want to say I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I just want to encourage you to keep up the great work. It's important work that you and your family are doing, and I just want to encourage that. Okay.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. That's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on our show, drop us a line on our website at positivelywv.com. And of course, we appreciate you guys sharing these amazing stories of that, just like Whitney Price and her organization, UnPuzzled Parents Connect over in Wood County. It helps get the word out about what they're doing and Whitney's work and her passion for helping people in the autism spectrum and other disabilities. And it helps Positively West Virginia as well. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. Share these stories along your social media as well. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer today, Mr. Jimmy Murray behind the controls, I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.
We'd like to thank our partners, Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Interaction Media, Humble Influence, and our studio sponsor, BreezeLine, for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positivelywv.com/sponsor.